take your mask off when you get your photo. There'll be photo opportunities after the ceremony as well itself. So we'll begin now. So, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I'm honoured to welcome you to this graduation ceremony, of which the third level award will be conferred on learners of Setanta College. We are delighted to be able to return to our in-person graduation ceremony, and thanks to everyone who has joined us today. We also welcome those that join us online today through the live stream of the ceremony. Is lá an bhródúil agus speisialta seo doing Valéir agus bóálam cogordas a dhéanamh leat as dórá a bhaintamach. This is a very proud and special day for us all, and I'd like to congratulate you on achieving your success. I would like to introduce you to some of the academic faculty of Setanta College. Professor Liam Hennessey, the college president. Dr. David McHugh, Program Leader, Dr. Philip Hennessey, Chair of our Academic Council, Dr. Damien Young, Program Leader, Mr. Des Ryan, Director of Coaching and Performance, Mr. Ronan Hogan, Program Leader, and Mr. Luke Jordan, Program Coordinator on this program, the Diploma in Personal Training and Strength and Conditioning. So the order of ceremonies is as follows. And I conclude, Professor Liam Hennessey, College President, will deliver the conferring address. We will then progress to the ceremony itself. We have here present the cohort from the Diploma in Personal Training and Strength and Conditioning program, and there are 132 graduates from this program. Later this afternoon, we welcome graduates from 7 other programs: our Certificate in Functional Screening and Resistance Training, our Certificate in Fitness and Conditioning, our Certificate in Strength and Conditioning, our Higher Certificate of Science in Strength and Conditioning, our Bachelor of Science in Strength and Conditioning, and finally our Master of Science in Performance Coaching. So without further ado, I'd like to now call upon Professor Liam Hennessey, President of Setanta College, to address the graduates.
Thank you, Thomas. And Carja Viclay came ahead Kaiglig, Co Forta Union Special Tugus Bound there and Clash the Bugwalum, Hun Colossus Setanta, Fáilte Corroid Bulair. In you, Gudi on Ceremonies Grada. Tá áthasóirí a ríis a bheith seo, chun an ócáid a roint agus a cilúr a libh. So graduates, partners, families and friends, special guests, young and old, and smallies, and members of staff, I want to extend a warm welcome to you all, from near and far, to this, our live 2021 graduation. Today we are conferring, as Thomas mentioned, in two settings. And the reason, as you will appreciate, is that we wish to adhere to the guidelines for maintaining social distance in as far as possible. But this morning we are presenting the award for the Diploma in Personal Training and Strength and Conditioning. And we're also presenting individual awards for excellence within each program of study. Our graduates today represent many different nationalities, some of whom cannot be with us, and we extend our warm wishes to them, and they will be conferred in absentia. For all graduates, I want to thank you for your perseverance in arriving at this day. The challenges of the last 2 years have been great for you all, and we must acknowledge here the continuous patience and support that you have received from your families, partners, friends, colleagues. You have made many sacrifices as you combine home study and professional life, as well as the commitment you've made to your studies. I also would like to acknowledge, and this is very important, that all graduates make, within their specific areas of expertise, such a huge contribution at community and indeed wider society level. As a practicing coach myself, I appreciate the great commitment and the energy that is required in seeking to motivate, inspire, support a client or an athlete so that they can achieve their personal performance goals. Your commitment, consistency, and enthusiasm is central in all this, in the process of supporting and encouraging children, youth, young and not so young, to cope with and to deal with the many challenges as they strive to become fitter, healthier in mind and body, and to strive for their personal goals. But to do so requires a broad range of skills that includes communication, empathy, often support, and a lot of the time patience. This really is the very essence of who we are as trainers and coaches. So when it comes to an occasion like today, it's important to acknowledge the significance of your journey and your efforts in seeking to learn more about your field of interest. We're always on that journey of the scholar, of the coach, and it really doesn't end. It just continues, and long may it continue. So graduates and fellow coaches, ladies and gentlemen, family members, friends and guests, I will, without further ado, hand you back to the College Registrar, Thomas, who will now progress with the award ceremony. Guru Mila Mahagud.
Thanks very much to Professor Liam Hennessey. I'll now call upon Professor Liam, President of Setanta College, to confer Diploma Awards on students of Setanta College on behalf of Quality Qualifications Ireland, presented by the College for that purpose. I request each graduate, when called, to come forward and receive your award. And I ask people to only give applause to those that are present today to collect their award. Graduates who could not attend today's ceremony will be conferred in absentia. President, I present to you the following candidates who have successfully completed the Diploma in Personal Training and Strength and Conditioning Programme at Setanta College. So, Mr. Mark Beer, Mr. Fergal Bracken, Mr. Graham Byrne, Miss Debbie Conroy, Miss Clara Cotter, Miss Josephine Feeney, Mr. Stephen Frampton, Mr. David Gillespie, Miss Sophie Goodsborough, Mr. Kieran Harrington, Brian Hearn. Mr. Billy Hedigan. Mr. Colin Howard. Mr. Carl Kendrick. Miss Katie Lyons. Mr. Robin Marr.
It's Miss.
Miss Robin.
It's okay.
Mr. Eric McCormick. Mr. Rafael Mesquita. Mr. Des Murphy. Miss Valerie Neelineshik. Mr. Jack O'Brien. Aoife O'Mahony, Miss Joanne Scanlon, Mr. Mantavidas Vasilius, and Miss Maria Watson. The following learners will be conferred in absentia. So if you bear with me, there's a number of students to get through. So Mr. John Allen Glynn, Mr. Chris Baker, Mr. Kevin Bannerton, Mr. Gary Bergen, Mr. Marcin Boissin, Miss Aoife Brennan, Mr. Niall Brennan, Mr. Patrick Brett, Mr. Ben Brown, Mr. Kevin Burke, Mr. Ollie Cahl, Mr. Benny Carroll, Mr. Mark Carey, Mr. Liam Coleman, Mr. Dermot Canole, Mr. Liam Conroy, Miss Fabian Cooney, Mr. Ronan Corrie, Miss Quiva Costello, Mr. Fionn Dalton, Miss Grace Daly, Mr. Keane Daly, Miss Emma Davey, Mr. Kazim Diarra, Mr. James Dixon, Miss Joanne Doonan, Mr. Michael Dowling, Mr. Jamie Dreelan, Miss Natasha Drought, Miss Kate Duggan, Mr. Niall Egan, Miss Nicola Farou, Mr. Kieran Fitzgerald, Mr. Ross Flanagan, Mr. Paddy Flannelly, Mr. Keane Foley, Mr. Dominic Fox, Mr. Robert Gilshanan, Miss Karen Guthrie, Mr. Mark Hayes, Miss Gemma Healy, Mr. Connor Hegarty, Mr. Thomas Hare, Miss Karen Hennessey, Mr. Fionn Higgins, Mr. Ross Howell, Miss Emma Hurley, Mr. Niall Hurley Lynch, Mr. Martin Everson, Mr. Jamie Jones, Mr. Fergal Keegan, Mr. Sean Kelly, Mr. Niall Lawler, Mr. Fergal Lawler, Miss Neve Lister, Miss Aisling Luby, Miss Charlene Luby, Mr. Christopher Mackey, Mr. Christina McQuillan, Miss Joanne MacDonald, Mr. Colin McAvoy, Mr. Kieran McGrath, Miss Kira McGuinness, Miss Anne-Marie Moffat, Miss Susan Mooney, Miss Amanda Murray, Mr. Shane Moran, Miss Kathleen Moynihan, Mr. Raymond Mulvey, Mr. Paddy Murphy, Mr. Evan Murray, Mr. Mark O'Connor, Miss Catherine O'Brien, Miss Rachel O'Brien, Miss Sharon O'Connor, Miss Aisling O'Connor, Mr. Brian O'Donoghue, Miss Mairead O'Driscoll, Mr. Sean O'Grady, Miss Rachel O'Mahony, Mr. Matthew O'Sullivan, Mr. Mike Tim O'Sullivan, Mr. Brian Patwell, Miss Gabriella Pavel, Miss Catherine Prendergast, Mr. Michael Quinn, Miss Sarah Quinn, Mr. Cormac Rafferty, Mr. Blaine Riley, Mr. Darrell Roach, Mr. Brian Rohan, Mr. Sean Ruan, Mr. Ivan Ryan, Miss Kate Ryan, Mr. Jonathan Savage, Mr. Stephen Shaw, Mr. Alex Smith, Mr. Michael Stenson, Miss Aisling Thompson, Miss Rochelle Timothy, Miss Eleanor Tracy, and Mr. Brian Tweed. So that was a dual qualification award, just to let everybody know once again, your QQI award and your REPS Ireland Personal Training qualification. Some of you will have already received your diploma in the post already. So that's great. Thanks very much to everyone. So we now come to the special awards presentation for excellent achievement in the Diploma in Personal Training and Strength and Conditioning Programme. The award for 2021 goes to Miss Gabrielle Pavella. Unfortunately, Gabrielle did not join us today to accept her award, but congratulations to Gabrielle on her excellent achievement. So this concludes the meeting for the purpose of conferring diploma and certificate awards on students of Setanta College. I'd like to once again congratulate all of our new graduates on your wonderful achievement and to thank you for attending this special event for us all. On behalf of Setanta College, I wish you every success in your future coaching endeavours, and I look forward to meeting and working with you all in the future. Thanks again. So I'd like to reintroduce Professor Lean for final reflection.
Thank you, Thomas. And as we now proceed to the next stage, my final reflection will be very brief. Thank you so much. It's a wonderful occasion for us here to meet you, and the events of the last 18 months was a challenge to all of us as fellow coaches and individuals who are really about being there, out there, face to face with our athletes, our clients, whoever. It's been challenging. So it's great that this hopefully kickstarts and marks the start of a refreshing period now for many years to come, where we can engage and meet. But I want to wish you all the very best in terms of health and continued health, underpinning success in whatever you strive to do. And again, thank you all, parents, partners, families, for the support you've given the graduates that we're very proud of, that are here today and will be conferred in absentia. So, without further ado, I'd like to introduce, and in keeping with our shorter than usual graduation ceremony, I'd like to introduce you to someone who's always very succinct and to the point. He hails from County Galway, and he's never forgotten that. And we were very lucky this year that he returned home and joined us at Setanta College as our Director of Coaching Performance. Des Ryan needs no introduction to many of you, but he's over 30 years involved in the trade, the business, the industry that you are and have been in. And he has perhaps gained the most outstanding kind of recognition in many, many ways by being poached from us way back a few years ago by Arsene Wenger and Liam Brady to come and develop what is now considered the leading academy in terms of sport performance. But that's not surprising that Des was with his team there in Arsenal able to do that, because he'd already done so within Irish rugby. and he started plying his trade in Connacht, dare I say, 20 years ago. Today to have Des to share with you some of his insights into the whole world that you are in, and have been, and will continue to be in and strive in. So I introduce you to Des Ryan, who's going to say a few words.
Thank you. I'll just find my slides. Yes, first of all, congratulations. Great achievement for you. Great support, I'm sure, from your family, your friends. So what I want to do is think about what happens next and share some thoughts with you. So Liam kindly introduced me, and I don't want to go through it again, but what I do want to share is during my time in professional sport, and probably too late, I did realise that there's probably more important things to be doing than looking after these highly paid professional sports people. There's the community, there's young people, there's the elderly population, there's the female sports people. There's so much that needs to be done in all those areas that are much more important than professional sport. So with that, and what happens next for yourselves? So I have some ideas. I'll start with this video. People that know me know I love a video. I'll make sure the sound isn't too loud. But yeah, this could be next. The community, using the skills you've learned, the art that you've recognised, the theories, screening for the general population, for everybody. The things that professional people do, professional sports people, can easily be translated to the community. So stabilising, mobilising, and modifying, strengthening, all the things you've learned in functional screening. Good quality athletic development for everybody, the whole population, young and old. A competency-based approach. When they're ready, they can progress, doing real athletic development in space with not a huge amount of equipment needed, and getting the population active with the resistance training that you've studied, progression gradually, and making it appropriate to everybody, individualising, using the screening information, assessing movement, improving movement, and maintaining movement for everyone. So you all have the skills now to spread this to the full population. And why would you do that? And you'll be asked that when you're out there training people. Well, the simplest area to point them to is the World Health Organization, an organization that has helped the world so strongly in the last few years. A clever organization with some extremely intelligent people, and they give guidance for physical activity. And within that guidance, we can see, this is for children, 60 minutes of activity each day, moderate to vigorous intensity. And importantly, 3 days a week, we see vigorous intensity aerobic activities and strengthening muscles and bones for children. Back in my day, it was a struggle. We had to educate parents, we had to educate players, we had to educate children on why we should do strength training. Now, it's just normal. Everybody knows you need to do it. The World Health Organization emphasises it. They emphasise limiting sedentary behaviour. The HSC in Ireland emphasises the exact same thing. There's the guidelines. If we zoom in, muscle strengthening, bone strengthening, and this is for the youth population. And we need to do it. It's an emergency out there. If we look at the activity levels, physical activity, who achieves those guidelines, and we look at 15-year-olds in Ireland, and this is 2006, 27% only in boys, 13% in females. So the more of this content The more of the skills you have spread in the schools, in the clubs, in the community, the better. It's essential, because if we look at obesity, in the European region, 1 in 3 11-year-olds is overweight or obese. And the challenges that can bring in the future. We need more people educating, training, because it's getting worse. In the countries that measure, it's getting worse for the younger population. Then, if we look at the World Health Organization guidelines for adults, we can see similar messages there. 2 times a week, strength activities. In the elderly population, similarly, 2 times a week, strength activities. It's essential. It's guided, it's promoted by the World Health Organization. But it's challenging coaching. It's not as simple as this recipe in a book, we just apply it. You're dealing with people, and you need to use your initiative, and you need to try new things, and you need to make it welcoming, and you need to make it enjoyable. And I'm sure you've seen this clip before, but it's a way of making a mundane activity a bit more interesting. So it's in Stockholm, and there's the choice. There's the choice of the stairs, or there's the choice of the escalator. The majority go for the escalator, of course. But with simple ingenuity, with simple creativity, they change things up. And they simply make it into a piano. And then the effect is quite clear. So we do have to be thinking differently. We do have to be making it enjoyable for people. We do have to be using our initiative to make this physical activity grow. So now the majority use the piano instead of the escalator. And they want to do it, they enjoy it, and it's encouraging activity. That's the skill, that's the art that will help change things. And if I fast forward to, I was lucky enough to be in Japan for the World Cup, and here's some young people following the same method, encouraging activity by being a little bit creative. So why athletic development again? Well, I focus on these 3 things: health, well-being and development. So there's more to it than just activity, physical benefits. If we look at Harvard Medical School, regular exercises changes the brain to improve memory, thinking and skills. And UCL in London, it can have study boosting effects. So if we get more people active, apply athletic development, as well as health benefits, we get memory, thinking skills, study improvements alongside. So a huge amount to be gained. And then the psychological benefits that can be gained. That's well proven again with physical activity. So the benefits just keep on adding up. And then we can try a multidisciplinary approach. We can look into the different sports sciences, like psychology. And with advice from the professionals, and with extra study maybe, we can teach players new things. Like here's LeBron James doing mindfulness in the middle of a game with craziness going on around him, but he's still got the skills to do it. He's practiced it. It's part of his athletic development. It's part of his lifestyle. And he's getting ready for the next quarter. Here's Harry. I'm not supposed to like him because he plays for Spurs, but I'd say he's a nice fella. Here he is, again, focused on his breathing. If you watch him before any penalty, he does that. That's added to his athletic development. That's added to his skills. And we were during the lockdown, we did mindfulness with under 12s who have a very short attention span, but we were able to do it online. So there's many of the sports scientists we can combine to help these players, people, population. And of course, there's the benefits in terms of development and performance. So let's look at Michael Jordan when he suddenly put an emphasis into athletic development.
It sounds all one reason we all showed when we started working out. Everybody started to like the change. For instance, Michael weight training, going up to check training, and I think you should have one because I decided I got to put some muscle on. I was getting brutally beaten tough. And I wanted to minister today. I wanted to start, fighting back. It's very difficult to have also for an athlete that's constantly working out, working out and out all the time.
the sound, but basically he made a decision early in his career that he was being pushed about and he didn't want to be pushed about anymore. And he put a huge emphasis in his athletic development and he got the benefits. Now, it's only one slice of the cake. There's tactical, technical psychology, but it's a very important slice. And as well as health, well-being, development and performance can be improved. And you can do it over a long term. These two lads might be playing for England tonight, and we were lucky enough to support them. Now it's the players that do the work, it's the players that put in the commitment, it's the players that do the sessions, but we're there to support them and help them. And the greater benefits can be when they started at a very, very young age. And here's all the benefits of resistance training listed out by the NSCA. Many varied benefits: psychosocial, confidence, skills, performance, outputs. There's so much to be gained. And there's so much evidence behind it of the benefits from many organisations. So health, well-being and development, they can be gained from resistance training. Now here, we started looking after teams in Setanta College as part of Setanta Performance. And like yourselves, we figured out what's our approach. And that's something you will have done or maybe doing in the process of doing. So when you talk to a client or a player or an athlete or a coach, you can describe what your approach is. And here's Setanta's approach, starting with functional screening at the top of the circle. And the reason we focus on that is, as you know well, as you've studied, the population out there aren't that great. Their movement isn't great. Here's a young person before pubertal growth spurt. Mobility is there, but not much stability, not much control. They need help. Here's a player just in his growth spurt. Mobility or stability isn't there. He needs help. And here's a player after the growth spurt with no intervention, no support, not much physical activity. Again, movement is needed to be helped. And that's what you can do. You can screen it, you can coach it, you can develop it. Here's a young player back in Arsenal. He's 13 years, 6 months. He's moving well because he's looked after. What does that mean? That means he can go on to more advanced exercises. That means he can get into better positions in the pitch. That means he can run in a much more athletic fashion. Now, let's fast forward 6 months. He's grown 7 centimetres, but the coaches have done a great job. They screen, they coach, they program, they keep the movement. Let's fast forward again. So he's grown 20 centimetres. He's 15 years, 3 months now, and there he is. Same boy, same movement. It's kept because of good coaching and good effort by him. Now fast forward to he's 16. He's grown 23 centimetres. He's put on 23 kgs. He's got stronger. He can do 28 extra push-ups. And he's still moving well. That's good quality coaching. You've all got the skills to screen that, to coach that. And that'll have so much benefit in the future. The exercises he can do, the positions he can get into, the athletic movements he can achieve. And he's a professional footballer. He's playing for Bromley at the moment. He's 20. And I presume he's still moving well. So movement skills, that's so important. And here's an athletic development framework that can be applied at all age groups, following the principles you've learnt in resistance training. And then when you have a bit more time with them, when you have a bit more contact time for coaching, things like this can be achieved. So these are the young boys from under 12 to under 16 in the academy, and there's lots of contact time. There's lots of good coaches. There's coaches there that have done the functional screening module that you've done. There's physios there that have done the functional screening module that you've done. They apply the same principles that you apply and can apply to get to very high levels at very young age groups, responsibly. Mastering their body weight first, mastering the technique first, and then gradually loading in the context of their growth, their movement, and their competency. But this can be done with the general population, being aware that they're still young, so giving them movement challenges in session for fun. And of course there's all that can be done outside of the gym, on the pitch, the speed, the change of direction, the movement, translated onto the pitch. And you have the skills now to take a group And in this group you can see they're doing different exercises. They're doing basic ones, complex ones, different movements. It's individualised. With your screening, with your knowledge and resistance training, now you can do that. Yes, there's more coaches there, but you can still apply the same principles. Corrective exercises before the session related to the screen. And this can be done for the community. This can be done for a school. This can be done for an elderly population. Now, if you are working with teams, I'd highly recommend you get to know the coach well. You build a really strong relationship with the coach. That's the art of strength and conditioning, of sports science. That relationship is so strong. And here we'll see the local coach of the hurling, senior hurling team, Colin Bonner, a very athletic person, a very strong person we can see from this old footage. He had good support, I think, from Mr. Hennessey here, Dr. Hennessey, and this is real old school hurling now, but effective. But there's a person now, a coach of a local team, and he's done the course here in Setanta. He's got a training age. If you were a conditioner working with him, you'd want to learn about his coaching philosophy. You'd want to learn about his playing history. You'd want to learn about his background to form that good, solid relationship. And as conditioners, we must remember that the skills are the most important thing. The technical, tactical are the most important thing. We're there to support the player, support the coach, support the outcome on the pitch. But it's the skills that are the most important thing. We shouldn't overestimate our role, our input. And we'll never win in All Ireland with just strength and conditioning, but you kind of need strength and conditioning to win in All Ireland. So we're helpful support. So being aware of the coaches is a suggestion I give you if you are thinking of working with teams. And here's a person I was lucky enough to work with, and this is his description of developing a player over a long time. Now it's hard to describe that in a paragraph. I don't envy him. I would struggle to describe it. But let's listen to what he has to say.
It's in fact very simple. You build a player like you build a house. It's basement, the basis of the player is a technique. You get that between 7 and 14 years of age. If you have no technical skill at 14, you can forget it. You will never be a football player. Then the second part is the physical aspect. The first floor is the physical talent of the player. Unfortunately, that is decided between 14, 17, when you see, okay, we'll be quick enough, strong enough, and then the second floor is the tactical aspect.
Work together. But you must gather all that information when you are working with coaches. And an important saying that I share with all the people I work with is, I've learned long ago never to wrestle with a pig. You get dirty, and besides it, the pig likes it. So in sport, it can be very emotional, it can be very tense, it can be very high pressure, but it's only a game. So never let it get to wrestling as pigs, as George Bernard Shaw describes it. Like here, the poor French team in the World Cup, when they knocked Ireland out of it by a handball apparently, you got the fitness coach, you got the manager, you got the captain. It should never get to this. Never ever ever let it get to this. Walk away, be calm. You're professionals, you're qualified strength conditioners. Avoid this at all costs is a bit of advice I would give everyone. It's very hard to come back from this. And this poor conditioner, I suppose you could call it losing the head. He lost his head and he lost his whistle, he threw it in the ditch. So there's no coming back from that at all. And there's lots to be learned from working closely with coaches. Like this coach, I think is really good.
Actually, one thing I also realised, the first thing really got to do is you understand who they themselves are, and then once you've done that, you can meet others. And I mean that by your strengths and what your greatest capabilities are. And then once you understand that, I think then the most important is having a clear vision. Because if you've got a clear vision, a vision translates to a leader sees where you're going, and you've got to get everyone else to see where they're going. That's what vision is. Yeah. It's real clear. So it becomes very aspirational. You already see it before you do it, and you've got a clear picture in your head. Okay, so that's what a vision, and the mission is how you're going to do it. So those are two key principles. So the vision, where we're going, and how we're going to get there. And what we normally start to try to probably.
So it's important again to sit down with the coach. And sometimes we give out about coaches too much. They're quite clever. That's why they're in that leadership positions. And they've got a lot to offer. So ask them what their vision is. And you're there to help them achieve that vision. Or if you're supporting the school, the principal, what's his or her vision? You're there to support them, to get the kids maybe 100% activity in the school. Players, it's important to have that strong relationship. Clients, players, athletes. Here's Johnny O'Connor, very good conditioner, with a player called Glenn Kamara. Now, Glenn, how would I describe him? Wild and wonderful. Johnny, how would I describe him? Wild and wonderful. Johnny was thrown out of 2 or 3 schools. Glenn, if he was in school, he'd be thrown out of school. They got on very well. They had a very, very strong relationship. With that comes good results. And get to know your player. Get to know them inside out. Gather the information, the client. Get them to know them as a person is another bit of advice I'd give. Then they will really appreciate your support. And Glenn has gone on to play for Rangers, unfortunately. But himself and Johnny get on very well. There's Johnny when he was playing Glasgow, supporting Connacht, and Glenn came to visit him. So that relationship is so important as a coach, as a conditioner. Moving on, long-term athletic development. A little quiz. Can you spot a famous player there? Maybe people more of my generation would say, this is hard. This is hard. In the middle, in the back row, Patrick Vieira. So he was an early developer. He was a big boy at under 14. Roy Keane was a late developer. He was a small boy at under 14. They're both really good, and they're both players we have to support. The early developers, the late developers, the on-time developers. Here's another group. Can you spot a late developer there? Third from the left, that's Marcus Rashford. And there he is with the national team now. An athletic, tall man. Now, here's a tricky one. Back row is the only clue I'll give. It's a Gaelic Games team. Doesn't mean he played Gaelic Games. Conor Murray, yes, you're dead right. There he is, fourth from the right. A late developer, a small young man. Now, we have to help all these players. We have to be aware of this stages of development and help them in terms of athletic development. And funnily enough, they're playing tomorrow, but Gary Ringrose, late developer. Brian O'Driscoll, late developer, didn't get picked in his under 15 team. Conor Murray, you can see him there, and Ronald O'Gara was always small. So it's important we understand all these different stages of development in terms of biological maturation. So here's Brian O'Driscoll, playing number 9, very, very small, getting totally smashed. Obviously went on to be one of Ireland's greatest rugby players. Understanding that is so important and helping those players' development. Here's Simon Zebo, an early developer, large, athletic, easy to run through all his schoolmates and his opponents there. We have to support both players in the journey. And one more example, here's a guy called Flo Balaga. Here he is at 12, because he had conditioners that looked at movement screening, that introduced it gradually, that did competency-based approach. Here he is at 14, yeah, under 15 on the shorts. He's smaller than all his buddies, late developer. He still enjoys what he's doing, he enjoys his athletic development. Here he's at 16, he's gone through the growth spurt, he's bigger. He's doing very advanced athletic development. He's a very explosive type player. And amazing changes over a short period of time. And there he is at under 18, under 23, and he's on the first team squad now at the moment, performing very well. Education is really important. So as well as coaching, as well as screening, as well as getting to know the coach, getting to know the player, we need to educate everybody involved. The parents, the coaches, all the support team. Really important. So health, well-being and development. They're the goals. They're the things I've seen that are important in the community, more important than professional sport. Here's the obesity table of countries that measure it responsibly, and Ireland is mid-table, not good enough. We need to improve. There's the associated chronic diseases that can come from obesity that we can reduce. Here's the activity levels. We're nearly at the bottom of the table. We need to improve. The community needs to be more active. Ye have the skills to help that happen. And it's evidence-based. World Health Organization, Health Service Executive. We want to help people become the best versions of themselves, is a line we used in my last job. We need to help everyone. So what do these two have in common? Well, they played sport at the same age groups. There's Dennis Hickey in the Schools Cup, and Dave O'Doherty, a comedian, wins the match, makes this last minute tackle, tackles Dennis Hickey, lifts the senior cup for St. Michael's, and there he is, a comedian. So we don't know what journey any of these players will take later in their life. We need to be there to support all the community in their journey. And we need to help organisations become the best versions of themselves. You may be working with a school, and I'll finish on this now. I can go on all day. You may be working with a sports team. You may be working in a local gym. You need to make the organisation the best version of itself. And I'll highlight Liam Hennessey in this as an example. So if we look at Irish rugby in the past, I was lucky enough to work there during Liam's leadership. It went through immense changes. He guided me towards academy, which I really enjoy, which I really love. And here's an example of the benefit of academy. There's an under-20 team, and all these internationals came from that one team. Liam set up the systems to develop those players. He got the people together in all the different provinces to talk and to come up with an aligned approach from old to young. He brought people together from all the provinces to create something together with his leadership. A common approach was implemented. It was called the functional approach. The aim was to get Irish players that moved well to compete against those big French, South African, English type teams. He knew the importance of education, created the certified conditioning course, and every year all these people in the community, he knew the importance of community, went on the course and brought it back to their schools and clubs. The pathway was created for the players and the coaches. Level 1 in strength and conditioning, the CCC, extra education through Setanta, workshops and conferences, educator courses, huge amount of effort on education. And with that, we still have the results. This is the Leinster under 20 teams, 2007 to 2010. Dramatic change in their physical profile due to education, working together, improving the structure, having a clear pathway. And if we look at Irish rugby in the 90s, 4th, 5th, it was only the 5 nations, not performing well, disappointing for a nation. At that time, if we remember back, and it's always good to look back in history, performed poorly, the bottom 2 positions. The history of strength and conditioning in Ireland was poor. There was no history of it. No pathway or common approach to strength and conditioning at that time. Variation in competencies of strength and conditioning coaches was out there. Yeah, we were all very varied. Poor facilities. It was a transition from amateur to professional, and there was a low playing population. So, Liam, Stephen Abood, player pathway in place, technical model in place, education in place. It grew. It grew very successful. Here's the 2000s. The European wins, the Six Nation wins, not 4th, 5th anymore, up 2nd and 1st. Here's the 2010s, the women's team becomes successful. Again, lots of seconds, firsts, thirds, not down at the bottom of the table, due to influence in an organisation. And you can do that in your environment. So I will emphasise health, I will emphasise well-being, I will emphasise development. And the future, this is the American landscape. You've got an association for training professional athletes, an association for people working at 3rd level, an association for people working with the general population, children, high school, special populations, tactical populations. That's coming to Europe, that's coming to Ireland. The opportunities are coming. Currently in the Irish landscape, yeah, we don't have associations, they're coming. There's jobs in professional sport, not many, but they are there. There's a graduate, Paul Ginty. He did work in car sales, the crash happened, he did the course here in Setanta, and he's an extremely successful gym in Ballina and Mayo up there. Completely changed his career and is very successful still. You've Annie McCara working in a school, a very important role, full time, getting those young people active, all the age groups. And if we look back now, in the 90s, there wasn't a history of strength and conditioning in Ireland. There wasn't an emphasis of it. There was a poor understanding. There was a variation in competency. But if I look now across the water to all the different professional teams in England, most of their heads of conditioning are from Ireland. Most of them were developed by Hennessey, which is an amazing turnaround in just a few decades. So, what's ahead of you? There's some suggestions, there's some ideas. We've suddenly got a lot of positions available for the right people that are committed, that are only thinking about the player and making the player better, that want to be a professional conditioner eventually, or a part-time professional conditioner. So, not now, but in time, if you are interested in working in somewhere like Garryowen, working with Tipperary Camogie, working with a school around the country, we're supporting them now, Setanta, because we feel it's important to create opportunities for graduates, and it's important to support the community. So if you think you're interested, do get in touch. There's opportunities out there. So thank you very much, and well done. Congratulations.
There's some obviously a fantastic presentation that everyone can take on board and strive to implement in both your professional coaching careers. I hope everyone now enjoys the rest of the afternoon, as it has been well deserved. And congratulations once again to everyone of our graduation class of 2021. So that's it, that's the graduation ceremony concluded. We usually have a group photo, but just due to COVID regulations, that won't be taking place this year. But look, there will be opportunities for maybe individual photos if you come forward, and I suppose here at the front. But obviously, just mind yourselves as well in doing so. So yeah, thanks very much.